This land, a place where ancient stones whisper stories of kings and prophets, where faith and history collide. A land of deep history of hope and heartbreak. A land marked by centuries of conflict and yet still a place where dreams of peace endure. This is the story of Israel and Gaza, from the founding of a nation in 1948 to the struggles that continue today. This is a tale of two peoples bound by the same land, caught in a conflict that has shaped generations. We will listen to the voices of those who lived through it, the dreams, the fears, and the longing for a future where peace might finally take root. This is more than history. It's a human story, a story still being written. Long before modern borders, this land was called Palestine, a crossroads of cultures, faiths, and empires. For centuries, it was part of the vast Ottoman Empire, a mosaic of communities living side by side, Arab Palestinians, Jews, Christians, and others. In the late 19th century, a powerful movement began to stir among Jewish communities worldwide: Zionism, a hope to return to their ancestral homeland. This hope was rooted in millennia of history, stories of kings, prophets, and ancient kingdoms that once flourished here. At the same time, the Arab Palestinians had lived on this land for generations, cultivating its soil, building villages, and forging their own identity. The early 20th century saw waves of Jewish immigrants arriving, fleeing persecution in Europe, seeking safety and a new beginning. But as the Jewish population grew, tensions began to rise. Communities that had coexisted for centuries faced uncertainty, competing claims, and fears. Under British rule, promises were made to both Arabs and Jews that sowed seeds of conflict still felt today. In 1947, the world faced a difficult question: how to bring peace to this contested land. The United Nations proposed a bold plan to divide Palestine into two separate states, one Jewish, one Arab. This UN partition plan aimed to balance centuries-old claims, giving each people a homeland of their own. For many Jews, it was a dream coming true, a chance to build a safe nation after unimaginable suffering during the Holocaust. But for many Palestinians, it was a moment of loss and heartbreak. The plan granted more than half the land to a Jewish state, despite Jews being a minority in population and land ownership. When Israel declared independence in May 1948, joy swept through Jewish communities around the world. But the declaration ignited immediate conflict. Neighboring Arab states rejected the plan and launched a war, leading 2 months of fierce fighting. This war reshaped the land and its people. More than 700,000 Palestinians fled or were forced from their homes in what they call the Nakba, the catastrophe. Gaza became a refuge for many, its population swelling overnight. What was once a small coastal strip transformed into a crowded haven for those seeking safety, but also a place where new struggles would begin. After the 1948 war, the Gaza Strip came under Egyptian administration. This narrow coastal strip became home to hundreds of thousands of Palestinian refugees, people uprooted from their towns and villages, now crowded into small camps. Life in Gaza during these years was marked by hardship and uncertainty. Resources were scarce, jobs were few, and many lived in temporary shelters meant to be short-term, but the years stretched on, and so did the struggles. Politically, Gaza existed in a state of limbo. Egypt did not grant full citizenship or integration, and the Palestinians in Gaza had limited political rights. Hope for a return to their homes in what was now Israel kept the spirit alive, but the reality was a harsh, confined existence under military rule. Despite the challenges, Gaza became a place where Palestinian identity and nationalism slowly grew stronger, setting the stage for the turbulent decades to come. In June 1967, the Middle East was on the brink. Fearing attack from its neighbors, Israel launched a swift and decisive military campaign known as the Six-Day War. In just 6 days, Israel defeated the armies of Egypt, Jordan, and Syria, capturing vast territories, including the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. For the people of Gaza, this was a turning point. What had been a strip administered by Egypt became occupied territory under Israeli military control. The occupation brought immediate changes, restrictions on movement, new military governance, and a deepening sense of uncertainty and fear. Families who had already endured displacement now faced a new reality as homes and lands were controlled by a foreign power. The seeds of resistance and frustration began to grow, planting the roots of decades-long conflict. In the years following the 1967 war, Palestinians faced growing hardships under occupation. From this struggle, the Palestine Liberation Organization, or PLO, rose as the recognized representative of the Palestinian people. Founded in 1964, the PLO aims to unify Palestinian factions and lead the fight for self-determination, at times through diplomacy and at others through armed resistance. Meanwhile, in the late 1980s, a new force emerged in Gaza, Hamas. Born from the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas combined political activism with militant resistance, offering a different vision for Palestinian liberation. In December 1987, frustration and anger erupted into a mass uprising known as the First Intifada, or shaking off. What began as grassroots protests quickly spread across Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. Young Palestinians threw stones, organized strikes, and challenged Israeli military control. The uprising marked a turning point. It drew international attention to the Palestinian cause that also led to harsh military crackdowns. Lives were changed forever as hope, resistance, and tragedy intertwined in the struggle for freedom. By the early 1990s, decades of conflict had taken a heavy toll on both Israelis and Palestinians. Amid growing international pressure and changing political winds, a surprising breakthrough emerged: the Oslo peace process. In 1993, Israeli and Palestinian leaders met secretly in Oslo, Norway, and signed a historic agreement. For the first time, both sides officially recognized each other's right to exist and agreed to negotiate a path toward a two-state solution. This moment sparked hope around the world, hopes of ending violence and building a future of peace. For Gaza, the Oslo Accords meant new governance. The Palestinian Authority was established, taking control of civil affairs in parts of Gaza and the West Bank. Many Palestinians saw this as a step towards self-determination and the long-awaited realization of their national aspirations. But the peace was fragile. Deep-seated mistrust, ongoing settlement expansions, and violent attacks on both sides challenged the process at every turn. What began as cautious optimism soon gave way to frustration and disillusionment. Yet, the Oslo years reshaped Gaza's political landscape, setting the stage for future struggles and changes. By the late 1990s, the fragile hopes of peace began to unravel. The Oslo process, once a beacon of possibility, faltered under the weight of deep mistrust and repeated setbacks. Peace talks broke down and frustration boiled over into violence. In 2000, the Second Intifada erupted, a brutal wave of conflict that swept across the West Bank and Gaza. Suicide bombings targeted Israeli civilians, shattering lives and spreading fear. Israel responded with large-scale military operations, checkpoints, and curfews. This cycle of attack and retaliation tore through communities on both sides. Everyday civilians, men, women, and children became caught in the crossfire. Homes were destroyed, schools closed, and families mourned lost loved ones. The violence deepened wounds and hardened attitudes, dimming the light of peace for years to come. In 2005, Israel made a historic decision to withdraw its military forces and settlers from the Gaza Strip. This move, known as the disengagement, ended nearly for decades of direct Israeli presence inside Gaza. Many hoped it would open a new chapter of peace and self-governance for Palestinians. But soon after, political power in Gaza shifted dramatically. Hamas, an Islamist movement with roots in resistance, won legislative elections in 2006 and took control of Gaza by 2007. This change deepened divisions both within Palestinian society and with Israel. In response, Israel and Egypt imposed strict blockades on Gaza, restricting the movement of people, goods, and essential supplies. For Gaza's residents, life under blockade became increasingly difficult. Unemployment soared, access to healthcare and clean water dwindled, and the economy teetered on the brink. Yet, amid hardship, the people of Gaza showed resilience, building, protesting, and hoping for a better future. This chapter of Gaza's story is one of complex politics and profound human struggle. Since 2008, Gaza has been scarred by repeated wars. In 2008, 2012, 2014, 2021, and conflicts that continue today. Each war brought devastating destruction, with bombs raining down on homes, schools, and hospitals. Thousands of civilians, men, women, and children have lost their lives, and countless more have been injured or displaced. The human cost is immeasurable. Around the world, images of the destruction sparked outrage and calls for ceasefires and peace. Yet, despite international pressure, a lasting resolution remains elusive. After each conflict, Gaza's residents begin the long, painful process of rebuilding, homes repaired, schools reopened, lives pieced back together. But beneath the surface, tensions simmer. Blockades persist, political divisions remain, and the threat of renewed violence looms. Gaza's story is one of resilience amid hardship, and a longing for a future where peace might finally take hold. For decades, the land of Israel and Gaza has been marked by conflict and loss. Thousands of lives have been shattered, families torn apart, futures stolen by violence. On both sides, mothers have mourned children, and communities have faced pain that words can barely capture. Yet, amid the darkness, there are voices of hope. Voices calling for peace, dialogue, and coexistence. People who dream of a day when walls come down, when children from all communities can grow up without fear. The path is difficult and uncertain, but the human desire for peace endures. What kind of future do we want to see? How can we break the cycle of fear and violence? The answer lies not just in politics, but in the hearts of those who dare to hope. What do you think is the way forward? Share your thoughts below, because every voice matters in the story of this land.